Senator Eric Pratt, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Senator, you work in risk management in the banking industry. You have an MBA from the University of St. Thomas, a member of the Prior Lake Savage School Board. How do you plan to use these experiences in your new role here with the State Senate?
Well, throughout my career and even on the board, one of the important skills I've had to work on is trying to influence people, and often trying to influence them without authority. I work a lot with peers at the bank. Certainly being on a nonpartisan board with 6 other directors, we had to work together as a team to come up with results and to meet the needs of the community and the expectations of the community. So I hope to bring that to the legislature and work not only with my colleagues in my caucus, but colleagues on the other side of the aisle as well.
Yeah, and I did notice on your webpage that you really emphasize that ability to work with the entire school board on some contentious issues. So, given the reaction of Minnesotans to the gridlock a couple of years ago here at the Capitol, do you see your role, even as a freshman legislator, as kind of a facilitator of bringing people together?
I do. It's what's expected. People didn't elect me to be a freshman senator. They elected me to be a senator, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And try to be as influential as I can, not only within my caucus, but within my committees. We didn't always agree on the school board, and oftentimes we had split votes. That's just our belief, our perspective. It wasn't based on any sort of mandated ideology. It was just the way we believe, and I would never ask anybody to vote against their principles, and I would never vote against mine.
Okay, I want to ask you something else. From your website, you state, I believe Minnesota should flatten the tax code and expand the tax base. Obviously, taxes will be watched closely this coming session. So if you could create tax reform, how would you craft it?
Well, I'm a believer in a flat tax where everybody pays the same rate. I know there's a lot of people who believe in a consumption tax, but I tend to favor more of the flat tax for a couple of reasons. One, consumption tax tends to be more regressive than an income tax. Also, two, you tax what you don't want. And I think we need to create an environment where commerce is free to flow. And I don't want the government in the way of that.
And you stated earlier that you were elected as a senator, not a freshman senator. So will you come to the table with these ideas, or are you intending to just kind of sit back and see how things unfold?
No, I intend to push my ideas as best I can. Not all of them will be accepted. No is never a final answer. A lot of times no just means not now, and you continue to work on them over time.
Property taxes have been on the rise for more than a decade, and you point to your work on your website as well on helping reduce property taxes in your area. So what's going to need to happen, in your opinion, at the legislative level to reverse the trend of rising property taxes?
Boy, that's a tough question, because when you look at the residential taxes, we're about in the middle of the country. We're high on business property taxes. And I'm hearing from small business owners that that's really an impediment to their growth. I had one businessman tell me that he has to pay his business property taxes before he pays himself, before he buys new inventory, before he expands his business, before he hires another person. And we're among the top or the highest in business property tax. What we did in Prior Lake Savage was we got rid of our debt, and that was a big help to us to be able to lower property tax rates for our residents.
Okay, what made you decide to take a run for the Minnesota Senate?
There were a number of things. I've always had a desire to serve. That's why I served on the local board. Senator Claire Roebling was a terrific leader for us for many, many years, and when she decided to retire, I looked at the ability to be able to take the skills that I have and bring them here, to continue maybe her legacy in a way, but maybe to bring some fresh ideas and some fresh energy to the legislature as well.
So what are some of your expectations as session kicks in here shortly?
I don't know yet. I guess I'm just ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
What's your impression thus far of the people you've met and the meetings you've been in?
I think it's a good group. I think we're going to be able to get along fairly well. As I've met some of the other freshmen, I've got a good relationship already that we're building within our caucus, particularly our caucus freshmen. As I've met the freshmen on the DFL side, we're finding a number of similarities, either on the business side or a number of them that have served on school boards in the past, and we have that, we've already been talking a little bit about, well, what worked in your district, what worked in our district, what was your experience? And so those are the types of conversations. Before you get into the legislative issues, you need to build that foundation.
And so what's next for you?
What's next for me?
From a legislative standpoint, yes.
Well, we're still waiting to find out our committees. My interest right now is in commerce. I think we need to improve the business climate within the state to encourage growth. I'd like to help out on education as best as I can, bringing my experience from school board, not only on the financial side of education, but also to help improve student achievement. I'm proud that not only did we reduce our debt in Prior Lake Savage, but our students' test scores rose during that same time.
In fact, I thought I was done asking you questions, but I do want to touch on the school board experience one more time. You were in the trenches, so were there any issues that maybe surprised you at the school, with the school district, that you think can be addressed at a legislative level, besides property taxes?
Some of them have already been addressed. There are others that still need to be taken up. I think one of the most frustrating things that I saw when I was on the school board were the number of mandates that were handed down by the state restricting the ability of school boards and administrations to act in the best interest of their communities. One example, and this was a law that was repealed, was we had a counselor in an elementary school that had declining enrollment, but there was a maintenance of effort law that wouldn't allow us to replace that counselor, and we ended up having to relieve a teacher of her job instead. That to me didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me why the state knew what was better for my community than I did when I was there. So certainly regulations around mandating how much money gets spent in certain areas is going to be a focus of mine, because school board members, city council people, county commissioners are just as duly elected as I am, and they're there to serve their constituents. And that's really where responsive government happens. Responsive government is when you can go to your local board and influence the decisions, and it's a lot harder when you come up to the Capitol.
Okay, Senator Eric Pratt, we appreciate your time and your perspective. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, appreciate it.